find your passion, it ignites you as a person. You just feel awesome. Hello, my jiu-jitsu sisters, ladies. Today, I'm gonna show you how to fight. What I'm going to do is I am using some footage from my MMA fight, and we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about BJJ versus MMA, and I'm also going to narrate the rolling, the warm-up before I go out for my MMA fight. That way you can see jiu-jitsu like in real, like in action. All right, we're all about the action. So before I begin, something super important that I wanted to share with you, because this was a game changer for me for sure, is using powdered carbs in my drink when I train. This was a game changer for me, and I swear to you it will also be a game changer for you. I train like a lot, and you don't always want to go, you know what I mean? So what I do is I use this gum as my treat. It has caffeine in it and B vitamins, and it always makes me like super focused during training. Just be careful though, because one time I got cross-faced really hard and the gum came out of my mouth onto the guy's gi, and like this gum is so sticky, you can't get it off of stuff. So yeah, I felt a bit like a jerk. But the footage that I'm going to show you is for a warm-up for an MMA fight. And one super important thing that you need to understand is the difference between BJJ and MMA, because when I first started, I did not know this, and my first coach, Jack, explained it in such a beautiful way, and I will do you the favor of explaining it to you in the same way. So when I first started jiu-jitsu, I saw MMA and I was like, oh my God, I wanted to do that. And the thing is about strikes, when my coach told me, when I got enamored with the striking portion, he's like, Crystal, okay, strikes are just a distraction. So Jack was also a dog trainer, and so he put it to me like this. He's like, when I train dogs to attack and defend the household, once you teach them that move, that technique, then we add light distraction that would mimic, let's say, a person like trying to get the dog off of them. Then we increase the distraction, but the technique needs to be there first, okay? So that comparison is like your jiu-jitsu. Your jiu-jitsu needs to be there first before you add in strikes, because you need that technique before somebody tries to get you off of them, okay? And another reason why this is so good is because it shows you, it gives you a more realistic type of jiu-jitsu. So if you are training jiu-jitsu, one thing that you can add into your training is jiu-jitsu with light slap strikes. Not like, you know, you don't have to really hit hard, just a face tap, just to let you know, like, hey, look, your face is open. Because when you're training jiu-jitsu and you're training from the bottom position, when somebody is inside your guard, things get a bit different when there are strikes involved, and it's really important to be cognizant of that. Now, that being said, a striking example, no pun intended. So I remember when I first started jiu-jitsu, I looked up a whole bunch of camera footage from real life self-defense situations. And there was this one situation where this man broke in and he was striking the woman. And I remember I brought this over to Jay, and I'm like, Jay, like, how long would it take me to be able to defend myself against that? And he looked at it and he's like, Crystal, that guy couldn't even knock her out. And I was stunned. I was like, well, what do you mean? So as a person, as like a white belt, right? When we think about jiu-jitsu as a white belt and we think about striking, we have some falsehoods that are ingrained in us through society. For example, one falsehood that I had ingrained in my mind is, for some reason, that all men have punch-out knockout power and women don't. And if I got struck by a man, it would cause extreme damage. Now let's dive into this like male versus female type thing. All right. So if Amanda Nunes would have replaced that guy breaking in, if Amanda Nunes were to break into your house, that woman would have been out cold. As a society, we or maybe we'll just call it T, the T factor. All right. A lot of people think that those individuals with high levels of testosterone automatically have knockout power, but the T only is in one part of the equation, right? T equals the power, but knockout equals skill. Okay, so the majority of people walking around with high levels of testosterone do not have the skill required to complete a knockout. They may have the testosterone in them in order to develop the power, but if they've never developed this KO skill, then they wouldn't be able to bust a grape in a fruit fight unless, you know, it was a lucky punch. So this is a good thing for you to understand in order to not be afraid of being hit and to not give this like false power to something that doesn't really exist. Testosterone accounts for a lot of belief in a non-reality. Like, for example, I just saw this survey that 8% of the men surveyed thought they could take on an elephant without a weapon, like fisticuffs with an elephant, okay? If we lived in the wild, those people would not exist, okay? Nature would have taken care of that. But now in today's society, they have a keyboard and their testosterone is just fueling their mouth, okay? It's actually not fueling any type of skill. So let's let's just get that out of the way first, because I gave people way too much credit, and I find that like women are typically underestimated.
Look, you're gonna need to train for 7 years before you're able to take.
I am currently on year 5. I am here to give you some factual information and offer a counter argument. That's fucking offensive. Okay, fuck off. Let me just watch this warm-up with you. That way I can explain exactly what we're doing and why. That way it'll help in your jiu-jitsu. All right, so what you're first seeing here is called pummeling. The reason why we pummel is you can see how the foot I'm stepping forward with, let's say it's the right foot, that same side arm is pummeling in for the underhook. And when you are pummeling in for the underhook, what you are trying to accomplish is you are trying to get 2 underhooks. And the value of that is you are able to control the person's torso with 2 underhooks that then will allow you to establish more of a control position for a takedown. And then in addition, if you are that close to them, it also diminishes the power of their strikes, okay? You're not going to see somebody getting knocked out when they are in a clinch position like that. Force equals mass times acceleration. If you limit the distance, then you limit the ability for the acceleration to happen. Acceleration needs distance, right? It's meters over seconds squared, if I remember my physics way back in college, if I remember that correctly. So now we are, instead of doing the pummel drill, what we are doing is we are live pummeling for underhooks. And I remember my first coach always told me, like, Crystal, you know I like you if I hug you and I let you get underhooks. So it's really funny when you start doing jujitsu how you develop these habits of like, I don't like giving, well, I like giving hugs when I have the underhooks, and when you're shorter, you get the underhooks. And also when you're shorter, it also, all right, so if you are closing the distance on somebody, and let's say you are turtling and diving and clinching, if you're a little bit shorter than them, it actually sets you up for a great headbutt coming in because their chin is like right there. So just an FYI, which is nice for ladies because we're typically like the exact height for a really good headbutt, like in a self-defense situation if you're going up against a guy. Right, so now we switched positions. We now started. I am on my back. He is inside my guard. And right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set up for a triangle. And he does a very good job of posturing up, which is the defense to the triangle. Now from there, what I try to do is I try to force the open guard. And then I have the open guard, I have my feet on his hips. So you can do two things, right? You can either hug them close to you, which is if you are on the bottom and they are inside of your guard and you're on the bottom, what you want to do is you want to be in a safe position. So the closed guard safety position is when you are overhooking one of their arms and you are controlling their posture and controlling their head, because if they posture up, then what are they creating? They are creating distance. And if they have distance, then they can get an accelerated strike that will then be more forceful. So you want to close the distance when you are on the ground, which is the purpose of the closed guard safety position. So here, yeah, I'm trying to go for an arm bar. He defends by pulling his arm. See, we're starting from a position where I am on my back. If you are, when you are grappling, being on your back is the worst position. Well, there are worse positions than that, but in a self-defense situation, if you're on your back, like, that's not good. The reason why we train there is to show you what to do from a holy shit moment. But you don't, like, if I'm in a street fight, I'm not going to just lay on my back. Okay, that's how you get kicked in the head. Like, you don't you don't want to be in that position, but we want to train from there just so that you know what to do. And as a female, the closed guard, when somebody is in your closed guard, that's also like the missionary position, and that may be in a position that you are going to be in or are going to be fighting from. So it's very valuable, like, for a female to also know moves from the closed guard, especially what I just did there. So being able to turtle, being able to have a closed guard safety position, because when your legs are around them and closed and pulling them in and you are controlling their head and their arm, they are not able to hit you. They are not able to pull down your pants. They are going to have a very tough time inserting anything into you. Now you can see what I also did is from the closed guard position, what you can do is you can force the open guard. So the closed guard is when your legs are closed around them. The open guard is when you have your feet on their hips. And the open guard is great because it can give you the ability to do up kicks. And it's also great because from the open guard, you can then technically stand up. So you can either face kick, basically, you can kick their face, which is a great tool, or you can have the ability to technically stand up, which means you can stand up without getting knocked out by protecting your head, so then you can run.
She's too close when you try to stand up. Try to scoot away, get some distance. If she comes up forward, go back to your guard. You don't want to get hit trying to get up.
We start again. Nuri is inside of my closed guard. I am turtling. I force the open guard. He tries to control my legs, and then I go for the sickle sweep. I then pass his guard, and now there's one thing that I want to show you. So what I am doing right here is I am attempting, this is Kesakatami, or a judo side control. Now what I am attempting to do is I'm attempting to do an arm bar or a Kimura finish from here. But one mistake, the bad habit that I had back then was, do you see how my right arm is over his left arm? That is called an overhook. When you get into this position, this is called a judo side control or Kesakatami, you want to be able to have an underhook on that far side. So when their torso is right here and you're reaching over, you want an underhook. Oh, it's actually going to be the next instance. As we got up to standing, I used the overhook as leverage. So when you are in a position when you're on your knees and you have that overhook, you can use, this is like a wrestling type move, you can use that overhook in order to drive them to the ground. It can be very powerful, and it's also good to, what I did was a type of like judo throw, but you can also do that from the knees, as you saw. And then from here, I'm trying to go for a head and arm guillotine, and then I get swept. We're starting again, and you can see Nuri's doing a good job. Like if you're in a self-defense situation, like you have to think of yourself as Nuri, and Nuri's doing a very good job of controlling my head, breaking down my posture, and controlling my arm. That is exactly what you want to be doing in a self-defense situation in order to decrease the distance allowed for them to strike you. So you can see what I'm trying to do is body, head. Now that is a distraction. That does not have much force at all, but it serves enough of a distraction for them to then try to switch over and capture your arm in order to give you the ability to posture up. If this were strictly like Jiu-Jitsu without the strikes, I would be posting on his armpits or trying to get that hand off me by going like this in order to posture up. You never want your posture broken when you're in somebody's guard. So what I am attempting to do here is, he currently has an open guard, and I'm attempting to pass his guard, which basically means passing his legs. And right now I'm stacking him up. I pass his guard, and then I go in for a side control. And then our coach stops us to give me some feedback. We start again. Nuri does a good job of breaking my posture. I do, again, body, head. I posture up. And you always want to posture up on their body. You never want to posture up using the ground, because you will get armbarred for sure if the person knows what they're doing. So I stand up, I break the guard, I stack him. I basically do a throw by guard pass, and I am on his back. If we continue to go, one thing that you could do there is make sure that your body weight is back more, because that's how, if you ever have somebody's back, if you're too far up by their head, what can happen is you can like just fall off of them. They can stand on their legs and basically shake you off. So you want to make sure that you stay back. That way you can get your hooks in, and make sure you stay on their back, because having somebody's back is the best position that you can be in. So again, I am in Nuri's closed guard. He is trying to break my posture. I am trying to open his guard. So you have to always have an open guard before you can pass the guard. You can never pass the closed guard. Basically do a throw by and go into side turtle. And then this is a technique where you can take the back from side turtle, and I put on a rear naked choke. Here is a great example of a double leg. This is an extremely important point, okay? So the difference between BJJ and MMA. MMA, as you may know, is mixed martial arts, right? And what that means is You have BJJ, right? Wrestling, judo, striking. Now, in the curriculum from my school, the Jiujitsu encompassed wrestling and judo. My coach was a black belt in judo, and this is very important. Your wrestling and your judo is extremely important for takedowns. You can see very clearly when you have somebody from a BJJ school that does not practice takedowns, because you will see an MMA fight in which they cannot take the person down. If you can't get the person to the ground, how effective is your ground fighting, right? It has 0% effectiveness. So that's why it's so important to have wrestling. So examples of wrestling, a double leg is my favorite. I fucking love the double leg. Single legs are great too. They're also really good. So yeah, doubles and singles. So you can see when you try to first do a double leg, most beginners, and I have, this bad habit too, of keeping my head down, and you can see there, like, that's a perfect setup to get for a guillotine. So a double leg defense is a guillotine, or you could also sprawl. So I recommend, as a beginner, I can do some additional videos, but practice takedowns, because that is extremely important. In a self-defense situation, you have to also be cognizant that, it is the ground, but if you shoot in a way where your knee doesn't touch the ground, then you are able to save your knee. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that. Yeah, so that was fun. I really enjoyed explaining some of these fight techniques to you. What you can do, one really helpful way to train as a beginner, I'll tell you a story. I remember when I first started rolling, I was super sore because a lot of the guys were like going hard with me, especially before. All right, so I'll tell you the story. So when I first started jiu-jitsu and I started rolling, a lot of the guys weren't rolling hard with me because they didn't know how much pressure I could take, and they didn't want me to leave the mats crying thinking that, everybody hated me. So I went and I did my first competition, and as a female, there wasn't enough females to make different divisions, so we were all lumped together. And my first competition was against a blue belt. I was a white belt. I was a white belt against a blue belt, 3 stripes with MMA experience. Okay. And here I was thinking that I was going to do a judo throw and this little kung fu choke, and I was just going to be awesome. Yeah, reality check. What happened is I tried to go for it, and she ended up just mounting me, and the pressure from her mount was nothing that I had ever experienced in my entire life. So much so that I put my hands down to alleviate the pressure, and she choked me out. It literally lasted like 2 seconds. So after that happened, I made a video where I was like, guys, like what the fuck? Like, how come nobody showed me this type of pressure? And after making that video, my male training partners were more than obliged to show me what pressure felt like, because they were like, oh, okay, well, she wants it like that, she's gonna get it like that. So I got smashed after that. Be careful what you wish for. So ladies, when you are rolling, and let's say, you are in very intense rolls, one thing that you could do to ask your training partner to do with you is to flow roll, which is basically like a low intensity roll. One issue that I have to be honest, one issue that I have with gi training is that the gi, there's like the gripping of the gi slows down your movements, and the key to getting better as a beginner is to be able to practice the movements. If you spend an entire 5 rounds not moving, just kind of like holding each other and gripping each other tightly and nobody's moving, then you're not practicing jiu-jitsu, you're just practicing burning out your arms. So if you flow roll with the focus on trying to make your brain piece together these movements, you're able to practice the movements more and get in more reps. And then you can also flow roll at different percentage intensities, like at, let's flow at like 50%. Let's just keep it light and fun. So that's a way for you to train and to get in movements without being completely exhausted and tired and burnt out and sore. But that being said, there's also a value in going hard. Like, I encourage you to compete, because the pressure and intensity you feel during competition will simulate, if you've never been in a self-defense situation before, it'll simulate a high intensity self-defense situation, which is very valuable to keep your training real. Yes, and also doing slaps will also keep your training real, because when I did when I had my jiu-jitsu match with strikes, there are positions that I would stay in that I thought were safer than they actually were. For example, being in the turtle position and grabbing a single from front turtle, and trying to drive to standing. I was spending way too much time with that, trying to grab onto that leg from the turtle position, and I ended up getting my face just smashed in. But that being said, like, the strikes, when you have your adrenaline going, you don't feel a thing. You literally, in all of my fights, I have never felt any like pain. Like, the adrenaline just like makes everything, you don't feel a thing. So the reason why I'm telling you this is, when you are a female, before I started training, I would look at these self-defense scenarios and they would be so scary to me, because I thought there was a lot more pain involved, and I thought it was more intense than it actually was, in terms of how much pain I was feeling and the destruction that the strike accomplished. But in reality, most of it is just testosterone speaking, and people thinking that they can fight, when in actuality it's just testosterone talking, and they actually have no skill. So that's huge. Like, yes, of course, like, if you have more testosterone than me, and you're training the same amount as me, like, it's going to be tougher. Like, if I was me and there was another version of me with more testosterone, like that, they would have a higher percentage chance of winning, because they would probably be stronger than me, most likely, with that testosterone. However, if you have somebody who doesn't train, has testosterone, is like taller than me, but has no skill, like, that's a very low percentage chance of them, coming out on top. Like, there's always things that can happen. Things are never going to go your way. I mean, things are never going to go the way in which you envision. And in reality, things you can't control fight. Like, you can control to a certain extent, but there are things outside of your control that you can never predict. So yeah, that's just... So the moral of the story is...
Keep moving, Crystal, keep moving.
3 minutes.
Get out.
Just keep doing it. Keep going. Keep going.